Alina had always believed that the internet was a loud place where nothing truly stayed hidden. Still, she never imagined it would one day roar her name back at her like a storm. It began on an ordinary Tuesday morning. The sky outside her apartment window was pale and undecided, neither sunny nor gloomy, just quiet. She was halfway through her tea when her phone began vibrating nonstop across the table. Notifications piled up, messages from friends she hadn't spoken to in months, unknown numbers, social media alerts exploding one after another. At first she thought something had happened in the world. Then she saw her own name trending. Her hands turned cold before she even understood why. When she tapped the first message, her heart stopped. A video thumbnail filled the screen. It was her room, her voice, her face, private moments that were never meant for anyone else, moments shared in trust, now exposed to millions of strangers. Her breath shattered into pieces. No, 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 no. The mug slipped from her fingers and crashed against the floor, tea spreading like a stain she could never wipe away. Her chest tightened so sharply she thought she might faint. With trembling hands, she dialed the one person she trusted most, her boyfriend, Samir. The call didn't go through. Again and again. Blocked. A message from her younger sister blinked onto the screen. Just one line. I'm sorry. Something inside Alina broke in a way that made no sound at all. Hours later, she found herself sitting on a park bench far from home, coat wrapped tightly around her though the air wasn't cold. People passed by laughing, talking, living normal lives. None of them knew her world had collapsed before noon. She stared blankly at the ground until a shadow fell across her shoes. Are you okay? The voice was calm, low, unfamiliar. She looked up slowly. The man standing there wore a charcoal overcoat and an expression that didn't match the usual curiosity of strangers. There was no pity in his eyes, only quiet concern. I'm fine, she said automatically, even though her voice was hollow. He didn't move. You've been crying. She wiped her cheeks, surprised to find them wet again. I said I'm fine. A pause. Fine people don't look like they've just lost everything. Something in his tone, gentle but certain, made her defenses crumble. She looked away quickly, ashamed of the fresh tears spilling down. Please, she whispered, just leave me alone. Instead, he sat at the far end of the bench, leaving enough space to feel safe. I will, he said, but not until I know you won't disappear. She almost laughed at that. Disappear. She wished she could. Minutes passed in silence. The city noise softened into background static. Finally, she spoke without looking at him. My life is over. It isn't. You don't even know what happened. I don't need to, he replied quietly. Nothing that happens online decides the worth of a real person. She turned toward him then, really seeing him for the first time. Early 30s, composed, eyes that looked like they had witnessed storms and survived them. There was something steady about him, like a lighthouse that didn't sway, no matter how hard the waves hit. Why are you being nice to me? She asked. Because you needed someone to be. The simplicity of that answer hurt more than anything. Her phone buzzed again. Another notification. Another reminder of humiliation spreading like wildfire. She flinched. His gaze flicked to the screen, but he didn't try to read it. Do you have somewhere safe to go? She shook her head. Home was no longer safe. Nowhere was. He stood and extended a business card. My name is Zion. If you want help, call me. If you don't, throw it away. She took the card without thinking. CEO, Arden Holdings. Her eyes widened. She recognized the company instantly. Everyone did. Before she could respond, he added softly, and before you ask, no, this isn't charity. I just don't like seeing people crushed by things they didn't deserve. Then he walked away, leaving her with a small rectangle of paper and the first flicker of something she hadn't felt all day. Hope. By evening, the world had only grown crueler. News sites picked up the story. Comment sections, filled with judgment from people who knew nothing about her except a stolen piece of her life. Alina sat in a cheap motel room, staring at the card for what felt like hours. Finally, with shaking hands, she dialed the number. He answered on the second ring. I was wondering if you would call. Her voice cracked. I don't know why I did. Because you don't want to fight this alone. A long silence. Then the dam broke. Words poured out about the betrayal, the blocked calls, her sister's message, the unbearable shame. She expected interruption, disbelief, something. Instead, he listened. When she finally ran out of breath, there was only quiet on the line. Then he said, very gently, "Don't cry. I'll avenge you." She froze. "What?" "Not with violence," he added calmly. "With truth." The next days moved like a dream she couldn't wake from. Lawyers contacted her. Digital forensic experts traced the upload. Platforms began removing copies of the video faster than they appeared. News outlets suddenly shifted tone, reporting illegal distribution instead of scandal. Behind it all was Zion. He never asked for anything in return. He didn't even try to meet her again until she requested it. When they finally sat across from each other in his office, she felt strangely nervous. Not afraid, just aware. "You did all this," she said quietly. "You deserve someone on your side." "Why?" He considered the question longer this time. "Because years ago, someone I loved went through something similar," he said at last. "No one helped her. I couldn't fix it then. But I can now." Understanding settled between them like shared sunlight. Weeks passed. The storm slowly lost its strength. The people responsible were identified. Legal action began. Public sympathy shifted toward her as the truth surfaced. But something unexpected happened too. She kept meeting Zion, sometimes for updates, sometimes for coffee, sometimes for no reason at all. He never pushed, never intruded. He simply existed beside her, steady and warm, like a shelter she could step into whenever the world felt too loud. One evening, as they walked along a quiet riverside path, she realized she was laughing. Really laughing. The sound startled her. "I forgot what that feels like," she admitted. He smiled, not at her but with her. "You didn't forget. It was just buried." She studied his profile in the fading light. "You saved me." "No," he said softly. "You saved yourself. I just stood nearby." Her chest tightened in a different way this time. Warm, frightening, hopeful. "Zion, why didn't you give up on me?" He stopped walking and turned to face her fully. "Because from the moment I saw you on that bench," he said, voice low and steady, "I knew you were stronger than what happened to you. And because I wanted to see you smile again." The world seemed to pause. Traffic noise faded. Wind softened. All she could hear was her own heartbeat. "I think," she said slowly, "you're the reason I can." Something unspoken passed between them. Something deeper than gratitude, quieter than confession, but far more powerful. He didn't step closer, didn't reach for her. He simply held her gaze, as if she were something precious he refused to rush. "Then I'll spend the rest of my life making sure you never lose that smile again," he said. Tears filled her eyes, but this time they weren't from pain. They were from relief, from safety, from the overwhelming realization that even after the darkest betrayal, something beautiful could still grow. She took one small step forward, not because she needed saving, but because she wanted him. The river flowed beside them, carrying away echoes of the past. Above, the sky deepened into velvet blue, scattered with the first brave stars of the night. For the first time since everything had fallen apart, Alina felt something new settling quietly inside her chest. Not fear, not shame. Love, gentle, patient, and unafraid of broken beginnings. And as Zion walked beside her under the widening sky, she understood that revenge hadn't been about destroying those who hurt her. It had been about rebuilding what they tried to take. Her dignity, her peace, her future, their future. Because sometimes, the person who says, "Don't cry, I'll avenge you," isn't promising war. Sometimes, they're promising to stand beside you until you no longer need to cry at all.